controlled chaos, controlled havoc, which describes reality. And then how do we unlock this so-called matrix, this conundrum, this insane Rubik's Cube? How do we recohere the lens of the angelic genome within our own atom seed? How do we then lean into wise dreaming, into reclamation of sovereignty, into reconstitution of relationship with the living soil?
Prove to me that you are alive.
And we are recording. What's really good, everybody? This is the Prove to Me That You're Alive Lightcast, the only podcast in the world, yada yada. I'm gonna skip the cool intros today instead, and we're not gonna have a super celebratory introductions of the guest because undoubtedly he deserves it. Undoubtedly he's not a guest anymore, he's a family member. But to all of you, I apologize about the big ass chair because we had some construction going on. That's first of all. Second of all, like I was saying, in order for me to introduce our today's not guest but family member, I just want to say something from the heart, right? So when Prove to Me That You're Alive was blessed upon me, I take everything that's a blessing. You know, my wife, my mom, Sacha Stone, a blessing. When the conception came to me, I wanted it to be a idea, a philosophy. I wanted to ask every single person out there, how can you prove to me that you're alive? Are you alive? Are you fulfilling your mission? Or are you another one of these hamsters stuck in a, mechanical wheel? You shit, sleep, shower, do the mechanical stuff. Or are you actually living your best life? Are you fulfilling your mission? And why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I truly believe that this idea, this philosophy was for all of you, for all of the people. And trust me, I'm staying on topic. I'll just couple more words because I know you're not here to hear me. So, to kind of tie this all together, a few months ago, I know a lot of you know, maybe a lot of you don't know, Sacha Stone went on a America tour. But I'm a close follower of his Instagram and TikTok. You have to go to Sacha Stone Official on Instagram. I urge everyone. I've been following him, so I realized that this America tour turned into like this world tour. Sacha Stone is in parts of Africa. He's hugging the children. He's shaking hands with the chiefs here in America. And we wanted to really come see him, right? My wife and I, we were waiting for the opportunity. Life has it. A lot of you know my co-host Daniel up in heaven. We lost him a few months ago, so my head's been all over the place. I've been screwed up. So I write Sacha Stone a personal message. Now, all of you know, obviously, this is a super duper busy person. He has assistants. By the way, shout out to Tony in Mexico. I promised you I was going to shout you out. Brilliant people. He has a team, right? So with the time zone difference and everything, in a half an hour, I get a response, a personal message from Sacha Stone, and he gives me his condolences. And that moment, I will remember forever. This is what Prove to Me That You're Alive is all about. And, this act of kindness, obviously there's this whole larger than life persona that we know being a Sacha Stone. I call Sacha Stone a prophet, a messenger, but this was this human connection. He replied to me personally. And I want to tell everyone that, look, Sacha Stone has never charged us anything. He should be charging people. That's the least that you can do, is people actually go and pay him to see him talk, but he has never charged us. He's here for the third time. He always answers the call, and that's why I wanted to say to wrap this up. And I'm going to shut up, I promise. I know we're here to hear Sacha speak. I'm very grateful to people like that. I'm very grateful that, he's here. I love that the things that Sacha Stone says sometimes, because I do these shorts. By the way, so many people write me all the time thank you, Sacha Stone. You changed my life this way and you helped me out this way. So again, I want to say thank you to Sacha Stone for every single second, for every single minute. I'm about to shut up, I promise. So, without further ado, our family member, my brother, Sacha Stone, the only one. Sorry, man.
What is the sound of one hand clapping?
Pom, pom, pom. Yeah, listen, man. I just, the more I get to know you, because I was always like this huge hater of like gurus and spiritual leaders and everything like that. So I was skeptical when my wife first introduced me to you. But then as I delve into the mission, as I had you on, I realized, first of all, you are larger than life, right? But then there's this human side of you. You care about all of us, and this is what it's all about. So I have a question, right? And you can go as long as you like. So please, I want to know. I know a lot of people's been asking me, what was the America tour for you? How did it kind of turn into like this world tour? I'm thinking, how did it go? Did it go the way you wanted it? Maybe you learned something, maybe you, I don't know, and also about the golden ticket. I really want people to know about the golden ticket. And yeah, what's going on in Sacha Stone right now, and was the American tour and the world tour everything that you've been expecting?
Well, it wasn't a world tour. It was an American tour that I broke halfway through. It was a 4-month tour across America, but I broke it in half. And in the middle of it, I bombed over to Africa to meet with the Litunga, the King of Kings in Central Africa, Central Southern Africa, in order to begin negotiating forward the New Earth nation and the New Earth project, which we're planning in Africa, in multiple countries in Africa. In point of fact, it's a complicated multilateral treaty initiative that I'm seeking to establish micronation satellites in multiple countries across the middle of Africa from coast to coast in order to create this um, um, constellation of satellites that are trade-free zones, tax-free zones, fully autonomous jurisdictions in places of exceptional Garden of Eden beauty, where we can reverse the diaspora of Africa and bring people back on golden passports, golden visas to the New Earth nation satellites in those countries. Some of the most beautiful country in the world, I mean, in terms of environment and habitat, and just stunning beauty. So the idea being that within the next 24, 36 months, we're looking to seed a number of these New Earth micronation satellites in Africa, which is the sacral, the solar plexus of the Earth, and that is where the regenesis point of the body politic of the next human emerging, and the social economy surely is going to be emerging energetically from that point in the world. And just ask Putin and Trump and China; they will agree with me. So I've been focusing diplomatic work in Africa. So I broke the tour in America to go and spend a couple of weeks there intensively, and then headed back to finish the tour in America, which was leading up to the Midsummer's Day, June 20th and 21st, in Tennessee, where we had already purchased land in America, in Tennessee, about 60 acres, which we were consecrating and then doing a proclamation event as well in order to prove the New Earth metric in Middle America every bit as much as we are in Southeast Asia, Central America, and Africa. I wanted to prove that we could pierce the veil, so to speak, of the war powers in America, in North America, which is the Washington District of Columbia machine. How do you begin to restore and reclaim the living soil and bring people back into relationship with the soil, bring back syntropy, and eradicate the third party intervention of this fucking fiction, satanic fiction called government, this privately owned corporation, transnational corporation masquerading as the United States government, Washington District of Columbia. So that godless fiction needs to be eradicated. But it's not so much going to war with it and throwing rocks at the citadel. It's more about how do we remove our attention from it? How do we then turn to the living soil, consecrate that soil, reclaim the title of our relationship with the living soil, with the land, and then bring the fellowship, the true currency, which is fellowship of man and woman, to that soil. That's what the New Earth is doing. That's what we were proving in Tennessee. And that's why I did a 4-month tour across America amongst our own New Earth and Lazarus Initiative community, was to bring that message home. And then on Midsummer's Eve, to consecrate the land with Native American and other hereditary leadership who flew in from around the world. Many hundreds of people flew in, and we established a huge medicine wheel, and had a 30-foot inferno in the middle of that, and brought the 8th fire ashes there as well. So a lot of sacrament, a lot of ceremony went into that. Just ask the many people who camped on the New Earth sanctuary land that night in Tennessee. The visitation from the stars occurred much later that night. A huge orb appeared over where we'd consecrated, very unsurprisingly, incidentally. The following day, we then did the proclamation event in a theater which we dressed up. And we had many important people coming in to lend credibility and support to the judicial bench, so to speak. We were establishing a kind of line in the sand. So Sheriff Richard Mack, the founder, the president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association of the United States, the highest ranking lawman in the United States, was there for 5 hours with his badge, sat next to me for the proclamation live broadcast. And Marsha Willitson, the head of our law commission, Dr. David Martin, of course, legendary figure, and General William Baker. We had Laura Eisenhower, a great granddaughter of President Dwight Eisenhower, the Hopi elder messenger Bertram from Hopi land came to bring that Hopi prophecy and magic in, and Scott McKay, the head of the Patriot Street Fighter Network, came to attend, and Chief Sabrina Whitehorse Barnett, the Cherokee medicine woman chief, and a number of others came, and Grandmother Ejna Flores, who's really the premier grandmother out there of the Native Americans, and she flew in from Kanata, from North America, from Canada, and to bring Crazy Horse's pipe to the ceremony. I brought the peace pipe of the Anishinaabe in, and it was a tremendous amount of pure sacrament and ceremony in the consecration of that soil. We had to bring the song and, to that extent, the protection of the ancestors to bear. And we did, and the proclamation event was a huge success. And we pierced the corporation veil of the war powers and retethered the land back energetically to the First Nation peoples. And now there's a process underway. It's unrestricted land. Our corporation sole, New Earth Nation, is a diocese. It's an ecclesiastically protected, irrevocable universal trust superstructure. So we understand the law forms, and we now are beginning the build out. So the master planning is underway, and we have a beautiful river running through the entirety of the land. We're building out the New Earth quantum technologies laboratory and hub for our engineers is being built right now. We've got the Regenesis Life Enhancement Retreat Center is also being spec'd out, and it will start being built this year. And I anticipate that by midsummer of next year, one solar cycle later, we will cut the ribbon on the New Earth Tanasi. We call it Tanasi, not Tennessee. We use the Cherokee derivative, the correct word of which Tennessee is the derivative. So we call it New Earth Tanasi. And we intend to cut the ribbon on the end of the first phase of development, Midsummer's Day next year. And at that point, I intend to cookie cutter this model to across America in all states to all comers through the New Earth movement to prove that it does not take many, many years to do this stuff. If you claim title, if you are working in unrestricted land and have the correct forms, the correct ecclesiastical protections, you and your community can do what the fuck you want. You can cure cancer, you can talk about cures, you can develop quantum computers, you can create anti-gravitational devices, you can power up your community on free energy technology. Hashtag fuck the government in the nicest possible way. And it's very important that we take that attitude, leading up to, which is a spiritualized aspect, but a very blunt one. The lead up to that event in Tennessee, Midsummer's Day, was horrendous for us. For months, we were receiving death threats, or I was. We were being, petitions were being signed. Scurrilous investigative reporters and journalists were being funded to write scurrilous articles, which were being published by scurrilous publications, calling me and my movement a sex cult, that we were coming in to defile the Baptist Christian daughters of Tennessee. The usual kind of satanic shit that they invert and flick at you. So we had to put up with that. We had to put up with mass protests. I turn up at my own land for the first time and find that there's billboards and placards saying, "We don't want Sacha Stone's New Earth." Very unkind stuff. Very, very unkind. Very dumb as rock, as a rock kind of mentality. But at the same time, that was a very small peak. And I understand how that community got wound up by other individuals who were lying through their teeth and conflating things and creating disinfo and double disinfo around me and around New Earth. So the threats were real. The guns and the explosives that were firing off around us that night when we were doing the consecration event, that was all very real. But I'll tell you this. Once we did that and brought the white horse magic in as well, we had to bring white horses in to consecrate. This is part of the Cherokee medicine, to sanctify the living soil of the New Earth Sanctuary, create the eighth fire ceremony, have this incredible sacrament, which went on for many hours. And then the following day's sunrise and the proclamation event at the theater that we'd set up nearby was so beautiful, and it qualified everything, and the whole energetic shifted. And we have a lot of neighbors that we love very much, and we're working with, and we're integrating fully with what we're doing. So it's almost as though it was a kind of a black wave, a kind of dark wave of Wicca witchery that hit us at the front end in order to try to destroy the taproots of this noble objective of seeding the kingdom of heaven on earth in the middle of America, which is the most compromised geopolitical and socioeconomic place on the face of the earth. And of course, you're going to get counterpoint geometry that's going to try and destroy such a noble undertaking. But the point being, we dealt with it. We dealt with it well and in style. We pulled it off. The live broadcast was a huge success. It was a 5-hour-long broadcast. We have not released the film of that yet. This coming week, I finally have the chance to edit it. I had to, after Tennessee, come straight to Mexico to pick up on the project here. Then I had to go back to Africa for 3 weeks, to South Africa to do some public speaking, and to go and meet government in Botswana. And then I had to go to Portugal to look in on my beloved mother and my family and spend a week with them in the sun, where we have a home in the Algarve in Portugal. That was my reprieve for the year. And then straight back here to Mexico. And now I'm getting ready to finally edit the Tennessee proclamation event, because it was 5 hours long, and there was so much lead up to that historic piercing of the veil. The world needs to know what we were doing and why we did it. But the film will answer that question. Another important individual who turned up to show support was Daniel Brinkley, beloved Daniel Brinkley. The man who won the South for Donald Trump for the election. So a really important man. direct line to the president, and one of the most spiritualized wisdom keepers in the United States today. And Daniel Brinkley came to be there front row and then take his position, in the photo calls, and should bring his support to what we were doing, demonstrating the fact that, we do have direct lines to the president. We've got direct lines through General Baker and through our other family constellation of icons. We do have I'm talking about the white hat community. We do have direct lines to the military intelligence core hub, and we knew that we were protected from that echelon. That no one at the heart of power wants us dead. Quite the contrary, they wanted this to succeed, because what New Earth is proving in Middle America, now that we've done the Tennessee or Tanasi consecration, we're beginning to build out a 0 point New Earth, free energy powered, free, 0 point economic model of a sanctuary, residential sanctuary, in a ministerial, in a ministry, a kind of ecclesiastically protected piece of land. So although it's only 60 acres, it's the start. It's like the pinprick that creates this huge impact, and will be able to, from midsummer next year on, franchise and syndicate across America. So that's the small way in which we're looking to cascade the New Earth metric into America, state by state by state, by proving the model with this first one in Tennessee, and then putting the model, the blueprint forward next year for farmers and people across America who also want to lay claim to the jurisdiction, the technology, and the fellowship that we have brought to bear with the New Earth movement, which of course is the trifecta of how we do bring about the kingdom of heaven on earth. It is about technology, breakthrough technologies, including AI, incidentally, where we have this quantum leap forward out of the doldrum of controlled narrative and old fucked up Cartesian Newtonian science and the 1952 Fabianist British universal curriculum, which really defines the story of reality, which is a false light reality. History that we're taught in school is not history. Geography and geology are not geography and geology. They are absolute inversions and probably less than 5% true. So correcting those primary narratives and stories that construe our so-called reality becomes a really important piece. We can do that the way that we've begun to lay claim and in our jurisdictions across America. Again, in Africa, very different, bigger, much bigger land holdings. We're negotiating, thousands of square kilometers of land to be able to establish those micronation satellites, and then be able to take breakthrough aerospace, quantum computing, and all of these kinds of advanced sciences into manufacture and rollout, which you can't do right now. If you want to go and build a supercomputer in Zambia or in Madagascar or in good luck. Good luck. You'd get shot down by the war powers. They would absolutely close you down. You have to claim a jurisdiction that is impenetrable to be able to then bring those scientists, those doctors, those engineers, those innovators to come in, who then feel safe enough to be able to deploy their algorithms. I know every single day, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, every single day I'm dealing with scientists and engineers, technologists, innovators. Even this morning, and it's it's mid-afternoon, but even this morning for a couple of hours, I was on that subject, fully focused, talking to engineers and their people. Who's going to protect them? If they're going to give up their quantum technology, their algorithm, they want to know, how are they going to be protected? So I'm saying to them, well, finally, we can answer that question for you. We can bring the protections you need because you come into our jurisdiction. There is no entry for Washington or for the war powers. And we can fast track the financing and then the manufacture and rollout. We can then sell the devices to our own fellowship, our own diocese, our own ministry, private members association in that context. So we don't need to worry about Amazon. We don't need to worry about being stymied at the high street. by the usual powers who have their codes and ordinances and compliances and rules and regulations and health and safety and all of the shit that they manufacture as statutory bullshit to inhibit and impede humanity's capacity to evolve. And that's what the peace, the Om Pass that the New Earth movement is breaking in real time using hard politics and diplomacy. Well, I say politics, let me not be too grandiose. Using hard diplomacy and then framing our solutions and our initiatives in such a way that they dock perfectly with the political milieu and their policy making. And they offer win-win-win scenarios. So I'm just trying to paint the backstory to say none of this is cute ideas, hippy dippy woolly ideas. It's all very, very well thought out, rather like the industrial hemp, which is a cornerstone of the New Earth Africa Initiative and the New Earth Asia Initiative as well, that we're bringing forward to two governments right now, in actually three, in Asia, which is if we bring industrial hemp in with us, and we have the partners, industrial hemp partners, and we've got the financiers, if the governments will give us the right to do it, it's this meaning to say step out of our way and allow us to claim the jurisdiction, the free zone, will bring the monies in, will bring the industrial hemp in, the processing plants, which are called hemp trains, will be able to do the cellulose extraction, the graphene extraction, create the hemp ceramics, be able to manufacture the top 300 to 500 products that serve a human being from cradle to grave, all of which we can manufacture out of one humble plant that will be locally farmed, yielding 3 times a year, that we can farm and process locally and then manufacture in New Earth design and development hubs using 3D cast and mold and extrusion technologies. So whether it's a toothbrush, a ladder, a wheelbarrow, a bicycle, or a vertical takeoff and lift jet, or even a telephone, we can make it all locally using the AI and advanced printing technologies today. This is how exciting it's got. And we put together the most comprehensive forecast, analytic, and business model you can imagine, which we can prove to a government, any government pretty much, but I'm talking about outside the G20 countries. We can prove that we can eradicate 80% plus of all imports to that country in 36 to 48 months. That's a game changer. You've just taken that country, whether it's Ecuador or it's Vietnam or it's Burkina Faso, you've just taken them out of destitution or poverty spiral into a vertical prosperity economy, no longer reliant on foreign imports, and also able to amp up their own cost of not cost of living, their own quality of life 1,000-fold, because all of a sudden you've reduced the cost of a wheelbarrow from $200 to 95 cents, because that's the true cost economics if you've got locally farmed hemp, locally processed hemp, and locally manufactured hemp products.
Prove to me that you are alive.
Which is 11 times stronger than steel, incidentally. So go figure. And as bioresonant and biodegradable. So your cement that you build your homes, your bricks, your tiles, everything should be made out of hemp. The streets should be paved in hemp, not asphalt, which would last 10 times longer and be bioresonant and biodegradable. You can build planes, trains, and automobiles. Not that we want to move out of those. We're launching New Earth Aerospace next year with New Earth airships fabricated out of hemp to take humanity out of the lateral plane into the vertical plane. And we've got the great-grandson of the greatest airship commander in history, the former commander of the Graf Zeppelin, Eka. We've got his great-grandson heading up our New Earth Aerospace. And it's very exciting stuff, because we now know what happened in 1937 when they brought the Hindenburg down. And that same year, Congress was bought and introduced the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937, outlawing hemp overnight, prior to which every farmer in the United States by law had to farm minimum 200 acres of hemp. And then in 1937, overnight, the oil and gas petrodollar barons bought Congress, introduced an all-out ban on marijuana and its derivatives, which means hemp, and that outlawed it. And that meant that the plastics industry was allowed to come in overnight and turn into what? The two horns of the devil, the petrochemical industry and the agrochemical industry. AKA, let's destroy the air, water, soil, and health of humanity in one generation. And that's what we are now dealing with, the fallout from 1937 to now. So the New Earth political and economic framing is to do with bringing us back to 1937, getting airships back up to where they were going before before the Hindenburg disaster, which was the 9/11 of 1937, to destroy the fact that all around the world they were manufacturing thousands and thousands of airships, and everyone was so excited in those days. They were building docking stations at the top of all the buildings around the world because they were there actually since from the Tartarian times. But Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, these buildings, the top of those buildings are docking stations for airships. So is Washington, D.C., the dome at the Capitol. The people don't know this because of the erasure of our true history. But the point I'm trying to make is that airships silently gliding over the surface of the earth at almost no cost, super comfortable, super luxurious, super safe, unless you create a controlled demolition of one of them in broad daylight on live TV, which is what they did with the Hindenburg. And that, again, was a very controlled midnight Mason agenda to stop humanity going off the lateral plane into the vertical plane, because airships were very symbolic of the elevation of humanity that was about to occur. The war powers wanted to bring in the Second World War. So the Rockefeller Rothschilds were conflating and that milieu were conflating and setting the stage for a world war, which was an auto-destruct of the middle class and the upper middle class of humanity, so that they could collapse the whole world into just a worker class underneath the control of an invisible Illuminati mastership. So I'll stop it there, but just to say that that my tour in the United States was all about leading to Tennessee, Midsummer's Day, to pierce the corporate veil with that panel of incredible icons that we lined up. Wait for it. The film is coming out within the next couple of weeks, and it will go pretty viral. I know that. It's also about how we're taking the greater vision of that piercing the corporate veil in Tennessee to the world at large. We've got, as I said, also four locations all in with our Bali location, which is already up and running and famous in Bali. But we're also doing, I'm not going to say where, because I've been asked by the team not to make early announcements on it. Just very, very exciting. We're about to announce a major footprint of New Earth in Asia, in Australasia, and in Southeast Asia, and also the ones in Africa. They'll all be announced in the first quarter of next year.
Wow, thank you. There's a lot to unpack, and I want to make sure that we unpack it. I just want to throw it in there, my 5 cents, that because you're talking about hemp. I'm from the days where I actually got locked up for 0.02%. 0.02 grams of marijuana, man. I was in jail for 2 weeks. Anyway, so I really want to unpack everything that you said. You said a lot. This is what I want to know, though, before we go. How is this impacting you, like physically, mentally, like all of this traveling? You're here, you're there. Like, how is Sacha Stone doing?
It's not. I'm not having a great week. I have some personal stuff navigating at the moment, so not in a great state of. I'm not in a great state of being right now. But if I move myself out of my emotional body into the head, and I'm really trying to become good at that. But at the same time, I'm not trying to sublimate. But if I try and position myself in my head, the answer to you is I'm great. I'm doing really great. As far as physically is concerned, I'm also great. I'm fitter, believe it or not, healthier than I've really ever been, and I don't lead a healthy lifestyle, and I don't do any fitness. I lie. I started 3 days ago, so now I'm doing every day. I'm doing a bit of kind of aerobic weights, and I'm doing swimming in the Laguna whilst I'm in Mexico. And I've decided I will start to, in my middle age, start to look to keeping that piece, together with routine, because I'm terrible. I'm always traveling. This is the problem, and it's really difficult if you're living out of a suitcase and out of hotels and airport lounges. It's really difficult to hold any routine, supplements or exercise. So all of that notwithstanding, thank you for the question. I really appreciate it, and I'm okay. I'm okay.
That's good to hear. My wife and I were talking about you a couple of days ago, and we're saying like, how good you look. So she was like, "Man, you got to ask him for some secrets." And we're gonna go back to what you said about these crazy times that are happening, because I've been hearing from a lot of people saying what you are saying right now. It seems like there's a lot of stuff, a lot of attacks are coming at people. I think that starting 2020 was like a physical thing, then it kind of transitioned into a mental. I think now we're in the spiritual phases. Maybe you can back this up, because I'm being attacked too. Like I've never felt this crazy. But this is about you. This is what I wanted to know. When you came to America, from what I understand, you haven't been here for a while. What and you traveled. You were in LA. I remember you were in Harlem. That's where I missed you. You were in like further PA, not close to me, but like 4 hours away PA. Then you were obviously in Tanasi, as you correctly taught us how to say it. So what is the feeling that you got being here? Because I haven't left in a long time. What is Sacha Stone feeling about America?
So it's a hard one, because this last trip was such an amalgam of the best and the worst for me. So I was going for 4 months, driving myself across the whole country, making dozens and dozens of stops, eating on the fly, on the run, sleeping on the fly, on the run, packing suitcases and boxes and technical gear in and out myself with Ali, my producer, just the two of us, driving my, stacked up Chevy Tahoe. At least it is a big, brute of a vehicle, but it's really crammed. And I was doing that for 4 months, living like that. To do what? To get to as many people as possible. I'll correct your intro. I don't ever charge my speaking engagements. If I'm invited to someone else's conference or whatever, and they're charging, I have no choice. A tour I did in the UK last year was produced by a scurrilous production crew that ended up running away with all the money I made. Ended up costing me about $15,000-$20,000. Just a tour in the UK last year, because the producer ran off with the money. Not something which happens fairly frequently, but in America, I pay for the thing myself. I am underwriting it all the way. We don't rattle cans. Sometimes people do donate, and there's a bit of money for petrol, what have you, that left at the front desk, which is very sweet. But I absolutely, categorically finance these tours myself, and it's tough and it's expensive. Work it out. If you're driving 300-400 kilometers a day or every second day, and you are, staying in hotels every night for 4 months, do the mathematics. If you're eating on the fly, on the run, do the math. It costs a lot of money to tour, but I do not charge ever for my voice, because that was something I just swore to, and I can't change that format. I don't want to change that format. Um, I'm sorry, I completely forgot the crux of your. You were asking me what is my litmus of America, essentially.
Yeah.
So the 4 months crossing America gave me the best possible um, litmus on the pulse of Middle America. And frankly, that was why I was doing the tour. And it wasn't just Middle America. I mean, I started in California, the Conscious Life Expo. And then I went all the way up, Sedona, and crisscrossed the country all the way across to New York, as you said, Harlem, Long Island, and then back to Middle America to Tennessee.
You were in PA too.
Yes, yes, yes. We were in dozens of places, but the point being, I did get a good feedback from my own audience, because when you meet with thousands and thousands of people and you're constantly having conversations with them and exchanging ideas, my sense was that there is a certain apprehension in the there's a certain apprehension about what next. It's not like when I toured in 2021 post lockdown and did the whole Arise Resurrection and then Arise Freedom tour across America. That was like, yeah, we fucking did it. We survived that satanic threat. That was a certain euphoric thing that I found on the tour at that time. And then, of course, 3 years later or 4 years later, now it's tempered into something else. And there's an apprehension about what next. Now, I know what next. And this is the thing. This is what I'm in my talks trying to address, because the normal gig is 3 hours long, sometimes longer. And what I'm trying to do is thread the archaeo-cosmological roots of so-called reality, or the cosmogenesis points, threading it through to the status quo, to the here and now. How did we get here? How did we become subjugated by Cronus, by the Titan that devours its own young, by the lords of time, the archons, the Babylonian priesthood, the fucking crowns of Europe and the Vatican conspiracies, and then the Anglo-American Corporation, and then Washington, the war powers, and how did it all come to this complete totalitarian lockdown on every living system, where we are registered at birth, and we are assetized, we are collateralized, we are securitized, we are monetized, and we are forced into being fictions, and we are sequestered and locked into boxes, rat cages, psychologically, civilizationally, and physically, in our little tenement blocks, in cityscapes. All of that tapestry of chaos, of havoc, of controlled chaos, controlled havoc, which describes reality. And then how do we unlock this so-called matrix, this conundrum, this insane Rubik's Cube? How do we recohere the lens of the angelic genome within our own atom seed? How do we then lean into wise dreaming, into reclamation of sovereignty, into reconstitution of relationship with the living soil? How do we rekindle fellowship amongst one another? How do we, oh Christ, how do we mend each other through epigenetics and through an understanding of how we are carrying those epigenetic codes, and that we can not control, wrong word, we can reformat the geometry that exists between this and that, between me and you, and bring it back into true form, which is the empathic, the true love, the Christic love, not the false light love, not the I need, I want, I desire, I must have, but the one that is really in balance and homeostasis. How do we recohere that within the blood song that we represent in this time, with the trauma of our ancestors cascading down to the living moment, carrying those epigenetic codes, bringing those old delusions of separation, those old agonies to into the modern domain, where we keep repeating patterns which lead to war, disease, poverty, separation, and so on. How do we then take that into, as I said, the wise dreaming, the group dreaming, and then how does that take us into the mechanics of ascension? That's the shtick that I'm playing with. And then to show the new earth metric, and to show that we can build and make and create and affirm and expand. We don't ever need to ask permission. We don't ever need to be subject to the other, to third party intervention. But we have to know that to activate that sovereignty. And it's true that the journey might be lonely. We might end up being poor and having to live, feeling like emperors, but actually, counting the pennies, but still be grandiose. And I insist that we must be bold as lions, and we must affirm and expand and create, but be kind one to another. That's the piece that I am focused on, Alpha Omega.
Man, thank you for that. And you know, before you said something that I really appreciate about, you know, a lot of people forget when they think about America how beautiful this country is. You know, when I say that I'm a patriot, it's not because of the president or politics, it's because this country is beautiful. You know, it has a lot of beautiful people. You know, I would encourage anyone to drive from the east to west, north, south. Every state has something to offer.
Big time.
So I wanted to ask about if you could break down the golden ticket. And what's cool about the golden ticket, and I would encourage everyone, please go and see on look up Sacha Stone. Either go to the website or to Instagram, TikTok. I'm gonna have obviously all the links in the description, but go check out the 3D model of what Sasha is talking about. This kind of new model of living and thriving. So the golden ticket, what is it? How can someone get in on it? And what do you envision? Like if you could paint us a picture verbally, like what is it going to look like?
Well, thank you for the question. So let me just give a real context here. The golden ticket was a meme, an idea which we dreamt up earlier last year, in summer of last year, when I was on tour in the United Kingdom. And I wanted to create a meme that would seize the imagination of people in Middle America, where they could participate in the build out of, the realization of, the manifestation of New Earth in Middle America in record time. How do we do it? And the concept was put I can't remember the baseline. I think it's 10,000 USD
10K, yeah.
right, into a golden ticket that then crowd funds the acquisition of land and the establishing of that safety net, that jurisdiction, using the super trust structures, and then the implementing in that land holding, obviously residential homes, Regenesis Life Enhancement Healing Center, in this case, Cherokee medicine, horse medicine with an equine therapy component, with 7 Lakota Plain horses coming in, and big ponds and waterworks to be able to do the equine therapy in water. Our river with the Life Enhancement Center and the eco cocoons, which comprise the accommodations that we're building out along the creek as part of the retreat center, the New Earth Technologies laboratory and engineering lab, which is going to be a permanent expo facility with engineers and innovators living there, starting before Christmas this year. Probably by November, they'll be moving in. A theater, a barn theater that we're creating for hosting retreats and educational seminars and workshops. And we're planning a geodesic dome, but a very special one. It's something I'm having a dab in myself to design according to what I'm seeing in my inner vision, and with a moat built around it. And that's going to be the assembly hall and the broadcast hub, the town hall, and the critical retreat center as well for bigger retreats. And that's a very unique concept for the heart of these communities that we plan all across America. How are we creating these communities? Use it with the golden ticket. So it's a crowd sourcing mechanism. And your $10,000 also gets access to the New Earth Sovereignty Academy, best in class sovereignty coursework in the world, bar none. And it also it's a donation. Technically, the acquisition of a ticket is a donation into the diocese. And no, I don't draw a salary, never did. And it's not my thing. I don't take money out of these pools, but it does need to pay for people on the ground, obviously. And the whole process so people coming in then to want to live in the community or have a home built, so we can offer 5, 6, 7 different tiers of accommodations. I'll know next week when I get back to Tennessee in about 10 days time, exactly what the ground crew and our director Ethan Lucas has determined in terms of how many tiers of housing we can offer. But for sure, it's starting for fairly modest budgets all the way up to people who want to live fancy pants with the full bioarchitectural splendor that New Earth can bring to bear. But I don't want this to be an elite haven. So we are offering these land holdings, the plots of land you have to obviously acquire through your donations. So your golden ticket ends up being a deposit, essentially, and a line in the queue for when you choose to then say, okay, I'm ready to now move into a New Earth Sanctuary in Tennessee or in Wisconsin or in Milwaukee or in Nevada, because we're really looking to syndicate this rapidly through America. And then once people have booked their line in the queue, so to speak, they get first refusal. So for instance, we are later this year, in a few weeks time, maybe a month, we'll be unveiling the first 21 homes, the plots, for instance, because the master planning and zoning will have been completely done. The master plans will be presented, and then those people who have already bought the New Earth golden ticket will be in line in the queue, a first come, first serve, to say, yep, I want in on the Tennessee project, and that's the plot of land I want. Boom. Your $10,000 donation acts as your deposit on that piece of land. It's now held for you, and that 10K goes toward essentially assimilating the build cost of a home for you in that residential sanctuary whenever you are ready to make that switch. Other people are coming in with substantially more money and investing into the New Earth model because they're seeing that this is a prosperity model that we've created. It's a very clever model that we've created to create our own autonomous, inward-looking abundance economy or prosperity economy. And others will park their golden ticket as simply showing that their skin is in the game, and they are going to wait for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years before they flip their apartment in San Francisco and move to a New Earth venue. So that's essentially describing how our own community, enlightened community, forward-looking, conscious in action community are participating in the real-time speculation, implementation, and build out of the New Earth in Middle America.
Yeah, thank you for that. This is why I'm a huge fan of the New Earth and slash Sacha Stone revolution. I shouldn't say slash; it's one thing. New Earth Sacha Stone revolution is because it's easy to present us the problem. There's a lot of talkers out there. There's ice wall in Antarctica, and the Earth is flat, and Illuminati, and Rothschilds, and this and that. But it's much harder not to just show the problem, but actually show us solutions and steps being done to that solution. So that's why I'm a huge fan of yours, because again, we have all of these talking heads on CNN, BBC, what have you. They're just kind of playing again these unclever, unoriginal plots that they do every 100 years or so. It's almost like ritualistic. War and destruction, population cuts. So, and Sacha Stone, he's boots on the ground. I mean, he just told you guys he's in a car with his producers. That they're hitting states, hitting cities. And again, I want to highlight this because I said this in the beginning. I get many, 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 many people writing me and thanking me for the Sacha Stone shorts.
Oh, that's nice
That
to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, that I post, like actual people. So this is what I wanted to ask you. You know, what I'm trying to frame this question the right way. There's Since the last presidential election, a lot of people are divided. Hate Trump, love Trump, and then we obviously know how the systems works. We obviously know there are donors and sponsors and this and that. What do you feel, and what do you think about Trump? Is he really here draining the swamp, as he says? Is he on our side, or is this yet another very good scheme?
Prove to me that you are alive.